Alright, hi. Today we'll be talking about statistics, which is one of the last sections of your pre-calculus career. And we'll be talking about just some of the basic stuff. These first two are pretty easy, line plot and bar graph. Pretty simple stuff, whether or not you're going to be using an actual line to connect the bars or what, it's totally up to you. Now the frequency distribution, a lot of people always have questions. How do I set up a frequency distribution? Okay, now frequency distributions, first off you want to actually find the range. Now the range is the highest minus the lowest, and that will give you an idea of how to set up your class intervals. Okay, alright, so first off you do range, find the actual range, and then set up your class intervals either in multiples of 10 or in multiples of 5. It's totally up to you how you want to do it. And the class interval is just, what grouping you should have for each one. Oops, let's get an actual straight line in there. There we go. Okay, so when you're drawing this up and just working with it, so let's say you had some scores on some tests. Okay, and then you have your frequency set up. Okay, so let's say that the highest score was about a 99 and the lowest score was about a 62. Okay, all right, so that gives me a range of about 30 to work with. So if I set up my scores between 60 and 70, 70 and 80, 80 and 90, 90 and 100. So that's how I could set it up. Or you could do it by fives. It's up to you. It depends on how spread out everything is. Okay, and just work with it. So the class intervals are just going to be the limits of these ones right here. Alright, now the class limits would actually be these numbers. The 60, the 70, the 80, the 90, the 100. Those would be all the limits. Now the class marks are going to be pretty much the same as the class intervals, except they're going to be about, they're actually the halfway point. So the halfway point, the class mark, would actually be about 65 for this group. It'd be 75 for this group, 85, and 95. All right, and just as we work up. So the class marks would actually just work like that. Okay. In other words, you just take the two limits, you add them up, and you divide by 2, or you find the halfway point between the two limits. It's totally up to you how you want to find it. Usually the best way is by intervals of 5. All right, now the best way of displaying a frequency distribution is to actually use a histogram. Okay, and a histogram is a lot like a bar graph, except a histogram works specifically just with frequency distributions. Okay, all right, now the histogram is pretty easy setup. Okay, all right, so let's actually just come up with some numbers just to work with it. All right, so taking a look at this right here. Let me move this over a little bit so we can all see it. Okay, now we've set up all of our stuff. All right, now our actual class marks or our actual class limits will set up the edges of our actual boxes. Okay, so these marks in the middle, or these marks right here, will actually be the edges of the limits. So I could actually start this out. Let's say that we have everything all set up. We could set this up as 60, this would be 70, 80, 90, and this one right here would be 100, would be the upper limit of this entire thing. Okay, all right, and then what I would do is I'd probably set it up by 5s. So let me see, what was that first one? 7. Let's get rid of it. Just so we're not trying to match up to that huge of a thing. So let's go. Let's make this 10, and then we'll do a small one of 5, and we'll do a smaller one for 15, just as we work our way up. So 10 right here, just as we work. Okay, so when we start to construct our histogram, I mean, it's pretty simple and straightforward. Just make sure you try to get up to 7 the best you can. Okay, and then 12 for the 70 to 80 group. Okay, and then 10 for the 80 to 90 group. Right there. And then, as you can see, I'm kind of overlapping a little bit. And then about 3 for the last group. So we would definitely have to come in on group 5. Okay. As you see it, pretty easy to work with. All right, now the frequency polygon we would put at the class marks. Okay, you would put your dots and then you would just connect them and create a polygon out of it. Okay. Probably the best way to do it is to actually create a polygon with straight lines. Okay, and you can really kind of see a nice, neat way of just working with it. Okay, all right, that's it for frequency distributions. Just remember, you want to be thinking about what type of graph you want to be using, how you want to be using it, and how to set it up. And just remember your class intervals. If you set up your range first, the class intervals become really easy. Class limits, try to make those in groups of 10 or 5, multiples of 5. And then class marks are just the halfway points between them. Okay? All right, I'll talk to you later.